My sister posted a poll online about my 9-year-old daughter. What's worse, her crooked haircut or her nasty attitude? Family voted and made fun of her in the comments section while she was crying her eyes out in the bathroom. When I found out, I didn't cry. I did this. 5 hours later, they regretted everything. Hello everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin my story, I'd love to know which city you're joining us from. Please feel free to share in the comments. I'm telling you this story not for pity, but because I know someone out there needs to hear it. Someone out there might be in the same place I was, feeling like they're the one who's crazy, the one who's too sensitive. This story is for you. At the time, I didn't know what I was walking into. If I had, maybe I would have braced myself. Maybe I would have prepared, but I didn't. I just came home on a Saturday evening, the same way I always do. I remember the drive home was so normal, you know? The sun was setting, painting the sky in those soft orange and purple colors. I had the radio on, some old classic rock station, and I was humming along, thinking about what to make for dinner. Just a perfectly ordinary Saturday. I pulled into the driveway expecting the usual noise, the smell of dinner maybe started by my husband, Walter, the TV buzzing with some cartoon my daughter, Daisy, was watching. That was our Saturday sound. Instead, it was quiet. Too quiet. It's a silence that a parent recognizes immediately. It's not peaceful, it's a heavy, wrong kind of quiet that makes the hair on your arms stand up. I walked in, and Walter was waiting in the hallway. He looked like he'd been standing there for a while, just leaning against the wall, his shoulders slumped. The look on his face, it was a mixture of frustration and complete helplessness. "Hey," I said, dropping my purse on the little entry table. "What's going on? Where's Daisy?" He just sighed, a deep, tired sound. "She's been in her room for 2 hours, Brenda," he said, his voice low. "She won't talk. I think she's been crying." For a second, I thought he meant something small. You know how it is with 9-year-olds. Maybe she fought with a friend. Maybe she broke a favorite toy. Maybe it was just one of those big, dramatic kid meltdowns over nothing. I was ready for that. I was a mom, I had my fix-it toolkit of hugs and snacks ready to go. Did something happen? Did she say anything at all? I asked, already heading for the stairs. Walter just shook his head. Nothing. I tried knocking, I tried asking through the door. All I got was, nothing. Just silence, and then I heard her, you know. I did know. That quiet, muffled sound of a child trying to cry without anyone hearing them. It's a sound that breaks a mother's heart into a million pieces. I left my bag and my coat downstairs and went up. The hallway felt longer than usual. Every step on the creaky wooden floor seemed to echo in the silence. I knocked on her door, keeping my voice soft. "Sweetheart? It's me." Silence. I tried again, my hand flat against the cool wood of the door. "Can I come in, Daisy?" Nothing. So, I opened the door, just a crack at first, and then all the way. And what I saw, well, it was the start of everything. The room was dim, the curtains were drawn even though it was still light outside. Daisy's room is usually so bright, you know? Pink walls, posters of pop stars, stuffed animals piled high on her bed. But in the gloom, it just felt sad. She was on her bed, curled up in a tight little ball, her face blotchy and red, clutching her phone like it was the only thing she had left in the world. Her small shoulders were shaking with silent sobs. "Daisy," my voice was just a whisper. I walked over and sat on the edge of her bed. The mattress dipped under my weight, but she didn't move. She just curled in tighter. "Honey, what's wrong?" "You have to tell me." She shook her head, her face still buried in her pillow. "Nothing," she mumbled. It wasn't nothing. Anyone could see that. This was a deep hurt, the kind that a 9-year-old doesn't have the words for yet. So, I waited. Sometimes silence works better than questions. I just sat there beside her, my hand resting gently on her back, feeling the tremors of her crying. After what felt like an eternity, she finally shifted. Without looking at me, she shoved the phone into my hand. Her little fingers were cold. "Don't be mad," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I won't be mad, sweetie. I promise." I looked down at the screen. It was a screenshot of a social media page. At first, it didn't register. It was just words and numbers, and a picture of her, a picture she'd taken right after her haircut yesterday, smiling so proudly. Then my eyes focused, and I saw it. A poll. Posted by my sister, Sharon. The question read, "What's worse? Her crooked haircut or her spoiled attitude?" Underneath, there were 19 votes. And then, the comments. I scrolled, and the names blurred into knives, each one twisting in my gut. My own mother, Dolores, in my day, girls didn't make such a fuss. A haircut was just a haircut. My sister, Sharon, the one who posted it, definitely her attitude. Always spoiled. Now she looks the part. My nephew, Trevor, only 11 years old, LOL, she actually thought it was fashion. Can you believe that? My niece, Paige, 9 years old, Daisy's age, her cousin, her supposed rival in everything, she was smiling like a model yesterday. So embarrassing. And then more. Short, cutting comments. Little laughing emojis. Snickering and laughter spelled out like daggers. I blinked at the screen, my blood turning to ice. For a moment, I thought maybe I misunderstood. Maybe it was some kind of twisted, bad joke that I wasn't getting. A family inside joke that went wrong. But no. It was all there, in plain, cruel words. My family. My mother, my sister, my niece and nephew, all of them, mocking my child, voting on her humiliation like it was a game. Like her heart wasn't a real thing that could be broken. Beside me, Daisy's voice cracked through the fog of my shock. She didn't look at me when she spoke. Her face was still buried in that pillow, and her words came out muffled, jagged, like each one hurt to say. "They told me I looked pretty," she whispered. The words were so quiet I almost missed them. They said it was fashion. I could see it so clearly in my mind. Yesterday afternoon, at my sister's house. The clapping. The praise. "They smiled at me, Mommy," she said, her voice trembling. "They clapped." And then her voice broke completely, and she sucked in a shaky, desperate breath. Why would they say that if they thought it was ugly? I felt it like a punch I couldn't block. The betrayal, the confusion, the way her innocent trust had been turned into a weapon against her. My own chest ached with it, like she'd spoken the words straight into my ribs. She wasn't just crying because of the haircut. She was crying because the people she trusted, the people who were supposed to love her unconditionally, had lied to her face, then laughed behind her back. I couldn't answer her. Not yet. What could I say? How do you explain that kind of cruelty to a 9-year-old? How do you tell her that sometimes, the people who are supposed to be family are the ones who hurt you the most? So, I just pulled her against me. I wrapped my arms around her and held her while her small body trembled with every breath. I rocked her back and forth, like I did when she was a baby with a bad dream. I put the phone down on her nightstand, face down. I didn't want to look at it anymore. My hands were steady, but inside, everything was turning over, coiling into a cold, hard knot in my stomach. I looked at her, my baby, hiding her face, ashamed of nothing but trusting the wrong people. After a long time, her sobs started to quiet down into hiccuping breaths. I smoothed her hair back from her tear-stained face. "Listen to me," I said, and my voice didn't shake. "I wouldn't let it. This isn't about you. Do you hear me? This is about them. You are beautiful, and you are kind. And you believed them, which only shows how much better you are than they are. She didn't answer, but she leaned into me, and I felt her shoulders tremble one last time before she went still. I stayed there with her until her breathing evened out, until I was sure she had finally cried herself to sleep. When I finally went back downstairs, Walter was waiting, pacing in the living room. "Is she okay?" he asked, his face etched with worry. "She will be," I said. He nodded, but his eyes asked for more. I didn't give it. Not yet. Because even then, I was still trying to process it myself. Later that night, long after she'd fallen asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with my phone in front of me. I scrolled until the words blurred, every comment carving deeper. This wasn't just a joke. It was betrayal. And they don't know it yet. But what they did tonight will cost them everything. When I saw that poll Saturday night, part of me wanted to say I was shocked. But if I'm being completely honest with you, I wasn't. Not really. It felt less like a lightning strike and more like déjà vu. Because this wasn't new. This wasn't the first time my family had laughed behind our backs. It was just the first time they'd aimed their poison at my daughter instead of me. And that was unforgivable. My sister, Sharon, has always been the golden child. As far back as I can remember, she could do no wrong. It was like she was born with a spotlight on her, and I was born in her shadow. I remember one time, at a family gathering, she sang a song from some Disney movie. She was completely off-key, but the whole room clapped like she was a Broadway star. A few weeks later, I brought home a painting I'd worked on for a month in art class, a piece my teacher said was one of the best in the class. My mother, Dolores, glanced at it and said, "Oh, that's nice, dear," before going back to her magazine. Sharon, meanwhile, would doodle something silly on a napkin, and everyone would act like she'd painted the Mona Lisa. If I got straight A's, nobody blinked. It was just expected of me, the quiet, responsible one. But if Sharon managed a B-, there would be a celebration. I tried to talk about it once, when I was maybe 10 or 11. I asked my mother why Sharon always got more attention. Dolores shut me down with the same line she always used, a line some of you may have heard before. "You are just imagining it, Brenda," she said, not even looking up. "You're too sensitive. You're too sensitive. It's code, isn't it? It's code for don't complain. Don't expect fairness. Your feelings are an inconvenience. Just take it." So, I did. For years, I just took it. I learned to swallow my disappointment. I learned to stop seeking their approval because I knew I would never get it, not in the way Sharon did. But let me be absolutely clear. I could take it when it was me. I built up walls around my own heart. What I can't take, what I will never take, is when they do it to my daughter. It's like history repeating itself, but this time, I'm not a helpless child. I'm a mother. And a mother's love is a powerful, dangerous thing when it's been provoked. They just forgot who they were dealing with. They saw me as the same quiet, sensitive Brenda they could always dismiss. They had no idea what was coming. I'll give you one example that's burned into my memory, an incident that feels so eerily similar to what just happened to Daisy. I was 13. For a teenager, 13 is a universe of insecurity and hope all rolled into one. There was a school dance coming up, and for the first time, I wanted to feel pretty. I'd worked for months, babysitting the neighbors' kids, mowing lawns, scrubbing dishes, just to save up enough money to buy my first real dress. It was a deep blue velvet, and when I tried it on in the store, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I could actually shine. The night of the dance, Sharon came into my room. She was all smiles and sisterly advice. "Oh, Brenda, let me help you," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. She pinned the hem, tugged the straps, and told me I looked amazing. She used that exact word, amazing. And like a fool, I believed her. I walked into that school gymnasium that night thinking maybe, just maybe, things would be different. I felt a little flutter of confidence. Then, a few hours in, I went to the girls' bathroom to fix my hair. And I heard her. Through the stall door, I heard Sharon's voice, followed by the giggles of her friends. "Can you believe she actually wore it?" Sharon was saying, her voice filled with a kind of cruel amusement I knew all too well. "She thinks she looks so glamorous. It looks like a curtain my grandma would own." Her friends howled with laughter. I can still hear it now, that sound echoing off the tiled walls. I just stood there, inside the stall, my heart pounding in my ears. The blue velvet dress suddenly felt cheap and heavy. I waited until they left, then I slipped out and ran home, crying the whole way. When I told my parents later, my voice choked with tears, desperate for someone, anyone, to take my side, they dismissed me. My father just grunted from behind his newspaper. My mother, Dolores, gave me that familiar, tired look. "Sharon was only trying to help," she said. "Don't be ungrateful." Ungrateful. Not humiliated. Not betrayed. Ungrateful. At 13, you don't forgive something like that. You just bleed. It was only much later, as an adult, that I tried to let it go. I told myself maybe she'd been immature. Maybe she'd grow out of it. Spoiler alert, she didn't. She just got older, and her cruelty got more sophisticated. Now, fast forward. Sharon and I both have daughters. Same age, same school. And wouldn't you know it, the rivalry didn't end with us. It passed down like a family curse. And this time, it was aimed at my Daisy. Now, here's the part that stings the most. The part that makes the betrayal feel so much sharper. While all of this was happening, this lifelong pattern of being the family's punching bag, I was also their safety net. I work in IT. I've done well for myself, built a good career. My husband, Walter, has a steady job. We're comfortable. We're not millionaires, but we can pay our bills and save for the future. My family, on the other hand, not so much. And I was the one holding everything together. Yes, I was helping my parents with their mortgage. Every month, a quiet transfer from my account to theirs, just to make sure they didn't fall behind. I covered their utilities when things got tight. I paid for their groceries more times than I can count. My mother, Dolores, would call with some story about an unexpected bill, and I would just pay it. And my sister, Sharon. I helped her open her salon. I didn't just help, I funded it. I fronted her the lease deposit. I bought her professional equipment. When she was starting out and had slow months, I slipped her money so she wouldn't lose the business. I wanted her to succeed. A part of me, a foolish, hopeful part, thought that maybe if she had her own success, her own thing to be proud of, the jealousy and the bitterness would finally fade away. Maybe you're wondering why. Why, Brenda? Why would you keep helping people who treated you that way? Because I thought that was what a good daughter, a good sister, did. Because I thought maybe if I gave enough, supported enough, they'd finally see me as part of the family, not the outsider. Maybe they'd finally value me. After my father passed, the financial strain on my mother got worse. He didn't leave much, no big inheritance, and the responsibility just fell to me. I never once thought of backing away. And most of all, I did it because Daisy deserved grandparents. She deserved a cousin. I didn't want her growing up lonely just because her mother had a toxic childhood. So, I bit my tongue. I paid the bills. I told myself I was buying peace. But the truth is, I was just feeding their resentment. They hated me for having more. They hated me for being the one they had to turn to for help. And they hated my sweet, innocent Daisy even more for shining when their own daughter, Paige, didn't. They smiled to my face and took my money, and behind my back, they seethed. I was their benefactor and their enemy, all at the same time. And I was too desperate for a normal family to see it clearly. Until now. It all came to a head on Friday afternoon. My phone rang, and it was Sharon. Her voice was syrupy sweet, that tone she uses when she wants something. "Hey, Bren," she started. "So, you know that school event on Monday? I was thinking, why don't you bring Daisy over? I'll do her hair. I'll style both girls, her and Paige. They'll look amazing, like little twins. And here's where I know some of you will be shaking your heads at me. Why did you say yes, Brenda? Why would you ever trust her with your daughter?" And the honest answer is, because Daisy was begging me. She overheard the call and her eyes lit up. She wanted so badly to believe her aunt would make her beautiful. She looked up at me with those big, hopeful eyes and said, "Please, Mommy? Aunt Sharon is the best." And because Sharon was a professional stylist. This was her actual job. I thought, surely, she wouldn't sabotage her own work on her own niece. Surely, there was a line she wouldn't cross. And because sometimes, against all better judgment, you want to believe. You want to believe that family won't be cruel to a child. You want to believe that this time, it will be different. So I said yes. I regret it more than anything. But that's why I did it. When I picked Daisy up that evening, my stomach dropped. Her bangs were jagged, cut at a weird, crooked angle. Her layers were uneven, choppy. It looked bad. But Daisy was glowing. She was twirling in front of the mirror in Sharon's living room, a huge grin on her face. And the whole family, Sharon, Dolores, Paige, they clapped. They praised her. They told her it was fashion, that it was an edgy, modern look. And I smiled with her. Because what was I supposed to do? Break her heart in the car on the way home? Tell her she looked ridiculous when she was grinning from ear to ear, feeling like the most special girl in the world? No. I let her have her moment. Because she deserved to feel beautiful, even if I had doubts gnawing at me. And maybe that makes me weak, but I'd rather be weak for one night than crush my daughter's spirit in that moment. But Saturday night, when I saw that pull, that was when it hit me with the force of a physical blow. The haircut wasn't fashion. The praise wasn't real. The pull wasn't a joke. It was deliberate. Calculated. The same old trick Sharon pulled on me with the velvet dress at 13. Only this time, she aimed it at my child. And this time, I wasn't going to let it slide. After I left Daisy's room, after her breathing had finally settled into the soft rhythm of sleep, I went downstairs. The house was dark and silent again, but this time it wasn't an empty silence. It was filled with my own cold, quiet rage. Walter was asleep on the couch, the TV still flickering with some late-night show. He'd clearly waited up for me and just drifted off. I gently put a blanket over him and turned off the TV. Then I went into the kitchen. I didn't turn on the lights. I just sat at the table in the dark, the faint glow from the street lamp outside casting long shadows across the floor. In front of me was my phone. It felt like a little black brick of poison. I sat there for what must have been an hour. Just sitting. Thinking. Replaying every fake smile, every backhanded compliment, every dismissive wave of the hand from my entire life. I thought about the velvet dress. I thought about the straight A's that no one noticed. I thought about the checks I'd written, the bills I'd paid. I thought about the condescending tone in my mother's voice when she'd ask for help, as if she were doing me a favor by accepting my money. I thought about my sweet Daisy, curled up upstairs, her trust shattered. And something inside me snapped. Not in a loud, dramatic way. It was a quiet, clean break. The part of me that always hoped, always forgave, always made excuses, it just went silent. It was done. I wasn't going to cry myself to sleep. I wasn't going to scream down the phone at them. That's what they'd expect. They'd expect the sensitive Brenda to have a meltdown. No. I was going to be calm. I was going to be methodical. I was going to be the person they never thought I could be. Finally, I set the phone down, pulled my laptop closer, and opened it. The screen lit up my face in the dark room. If they thought I was going to just take this, they didn't know me at all. They had mistaken my kindness for weakness for the last time. The first thing I did was simple. Brutal, but simple. I opened my banking app. The familiar logo glowed on the screen. My fingers moved quickly, almost automatically. I went to the scheduled payments section. There it was, monthly mortgage support Dolores. I tapped on it. A little screen popped up. Delete this recurring payment, it asked. I pressed confirm. A little checkmark appeared. Gone. Next, Sharon's salon rent top-up. Delete. Confirm. Gone. I went through the list. No more quiet transfers to cover my mother's utilities. No more emergency funds for whatever crisis Sharon had invented this week. No more quietly covering the insurance on their cars. It took 5 minutes. A few clicks. 5 minutes to end years of being their financial safety net. And before you judge me, maybe you're thinking, Brenda, that's harsh. They're still your family. Let me stop you right there. Family doesn't mock a 9-year-old in a group chat. Family doesn't set up a child for humiliation and then laugh while she cries. Family doesn't use your love and generosity as a weapon against your own child. So, no. They weren't my family anymore. They were debtors I'd been bailing out. And the Bank of Brenda had just closed. For good. The second thing I did was for Daisy. First thing Sunday morning, I woke her up with a smile. Hey, sleepyhead, I said softly. How would you like to go on a special mommy-daughter date today? We can go to that really nice salon downtown, and then for pancakes with extra whipped cream. Her eyes were still puffy, and she looked hesitant. But pancakes? That was my secret weapon. She managed a small nod. The stylist at the salon was a true artist. She took one look at Daisy's hacked bangs and uneven layers and muttered under her breath, "Oh, honey. This wasn't clumsy." Whoever did this didn't care how she'd feel. I wanted to say, oh, they cared. They cared a lot. Just not about her. But instead, I just held Daisy's hand while the stylist worked her magic. Snip by snip, the damage was reshaped into a sleek, chic little bob that framed her face perfectly. When it was done, Daisy stared at herself in the mirror. For a long moment, she didn't say anything. I held my breath. Then, slowly, the corners of her mouth lifted, and there it was. Her smile. A real one. "You look perfect," I told her, my voice thick with emotion. "And tomorrow, you're going to walk into school with your head held high. They don't get to take that from you." Because that's what this was about now. Not just fixing hair, but showing her what we do when people try to tear us down. We don't hide. We don't cry forever. We stand taller. That night, after our pancake date and after Daisy was safely tucked in bed, happy and confident again, I turned my attention back to Sharon. Not with screaming, not with confrontation. I didn't need to. I had something better. The truth. I logged into the local moms group on social media. It was the hub of our community. The place where playdates are arranged, bake sales are planned, and reputations are made or broken in a single post. Sharon got a lot of her business from this group. She'd spent years cultivating an image of the fun, talented, kid-friendly stylist. I took a deep breath and started to type. I didn't rant. I didn't exaggerate. I just told them what happened, calmly and factually. I wrote, "Hi everyone, I'm writing this as a warning to other parents. This, I wrote, attaching the photo of Daisy's haircut before we fixed it, was done by a professional stylist to her own 9-year-old niece. Then she praised her to her face and mocked her in a family group chat, even setting up a poll to make fun of her. I let that sink in for a moment before I typed the final sentence. If she can do this to her own family, imagine what she'd do to your kids. I hit send. And closed the laptop. For a moment, I felt a pang of something. Fear, maybe? I thought maybe nothing would happen. That people would scroll past, or worse, tell me I was overreacting, that I was causing family drama online. But then the replies started. A trickle at first, then a flood. That's awful. Thank you for sharing. I had an appointment for my daughter next week. Canceling now. This is unprofessional and cruel. Parents need to know about this. Never booking her again. And just like that, the boycott began. By Monday, the ripple was already spreading. A friend texted me, "Sharon's salon is half empty. People are talking." By Tuesday, another message, "She had 2 no-shows this morning. Everyone's canceling." And by Wednesday, I knew she'd figured it out. The phone rang while I was cooking dinner, her name flashing across the screen. I almost didn't pick up. But then I thought, no. She needs to hear me. I pressed accept. "You," she hissed, skipping hello entirely. "You're behind this. My clients are canceling left and right. You're trying to destroy me." I let her rant. "It was just a haircut," she snapped. "A joke. You've always been jealous, and now you're dragging me down with you." Her voice was shaking, though. That told me more than her words did. Finally, when she paused for breath, I spoke. Calm as a stone. "I didn't destroy you, Sharon," I said. "I just told the truth. The rest, that's on you." And then I hung up. For years, I'd stayed quiet. But this time, I spoke up. And all it took was the truth to bring everything crashing down. 2 days after Sharon's furious phone call, my phone lit up again. This time it was my mother, Dolores. I could have ignored it. God knows I wanted to. Part of me was just so tired. But another part, the part that had been silent for 30 years, wanted to hear what excuse she'd come up with this time. I swiped to answer. "Brenda," she snapped, her voice sharp and accusatory, also skipping any pleasantries. "How could you do this? She's your sister. Her clients are canceling. You really want to destroy her over a haircut? Over a silly joke in a chat?" A silly joke. The words hung in the air between us. I almost laughed. It was the same old script. Minimize my feelings. Make me the villain. "You called my daughter spoiled, Mom," I said. My voice was calm, colder than I felt. "You laughed at her. And you've been laughing at me my whole life. Well, I'm done being your punchline." My mother gasped, a theatrical, wounded sound, as if I'd slapped her. "Families don't do this to each other. You don't air your dirty laundry in public. What will people think?" "Families don't humiliate children," I shot back, the ice in my voice finally cracking to reveal the fire underneath. "Families don't set up polls to mock a little girl's feelings. You want to talk about family? You lost the right to call yourself my family the second you mocked my daughter for your own amusement." There was silence on the other end of the line. A thick, stunned silence. Then she hung up. And just like that, I knew the next round was coming. This wasn't over. They wouldn't just let it go. When you cut off the money and challenge the narrative they've controlled for decades, they don't just walk away. They fight back. They escalate. And I knew they were coming. I just didn't know when. The quiet in my house that week felt different. It wasn't the heavy, sad quiet from before. It was the quiet before a storm. It didn't take long. Later that week, on a Thursday evening, I heard a car pull into the driveway too fast. Heavy footsteps on the porch. Then a knock, sharp, loud, and angry enough to rattle the doorframe. I opened the door and there they were. My mother, Dolores, her jaw set like granite. And my sister, Sharon, red-eyed and furious. Behind them, my niece Paige lingered, her arms folded, a sullen look on her face. Sharon didn't waste a second. "You've gone too far," she spat, her voice trembling not from shame, but from pure rage. "You're ruining me on purpose. My business, my life, all over a stupid haircut, all over a little gossip." My mother jumped in, her voice rising as if she were the injured party. "Do you understand what you've done, Brenda? We can't pay the bills. Sharon can't keep her salon going. We can't keep the house without your help. Is this really worth tearing the family apart?" And that was it. That was the final straw. Something in me snapped. All the years of swallowing it down, all the times I'd told myself don't make drama, it was all gone. "You want to talk about tearing a family apart?" I said, my voice dangerously low. "You did that when you taught me I was never good enough. You did that when you defended her while she humiliated me, year after year, and told me I was too sensitive. You tore this family apart every time you chose her over me, every time you made me feel like an outsider in my own home." Sharon rolled her eyes, like she was 12 again. "Oh, please. You've always been jealous of me. That's what this is about. You can't stand that people like me more than you." I laughed then. A dry, bitter sound. "Jealous? Sharon, the only thing I'm jealous of is how you've managed to live your entire life without an ounce of self-awareness. You want to know why your salon is empty? Because I finally told the truth. I didn't make anything up. I didn't twist anything. I showed people exactly who you are. And they decided they don't want someone like you near their kids. That's not on me. That's on you." Dolores's voice cracked, breaking through my anger. "We can't keep the house without your help. Please, Brenda, think of us." That word again. Help. Always help. Always give. Always swallow. "No," I said, looking right at her. "You made your choices. You can live with them. I'm not funding you anymore. I'm not swallowing my anger anymore. And you will never get near Daisy again." Sharon's mask of rage cracked then, for the first time. Fear flickered in her eyes. "We can't pay the mortgage," she said, her voice ragged. You've destroyed me." There it was. The admission. It should have felt satisfying, but mostly, it just felt pathetic. "No, Sharon," I said quietly. "You destroyed yourself. I just stopped paying for it." Behind me, I felt Walter step closer. He put his hand on the door, a silent signal of support. I met my mother's eyes one last time. "You wanted to know if it was worth tearing the family apart," I said. Yes. It was. Because Daisy is worth more than every single one of you combined. And with that, Walter closed the door. The lock clicked shut, the sound echoing through the house. It was the loudest, most beautiful sound I had ever heard. If you're still listening, could you please do me a huge favor and like this video, and comment the number 1 down below? That way, I'll know you've given me a like, and I'll know that you're here with me on this journey. Your support is a massive encouragement for me. Please, comment with the number 1, and then let me tell you how this all ended. After we closed the door, the knocking came again. Hard, frantic, then pleading. But we didn't answer. We just stood there in the hallway, listening as the sounds of their anger eventually faded into the silence of the night. For the first time in my life, I didn't owe them anything. And they knew it. Months passed. The consequences of that night, and of my decisions, unfolded slowly but surely. Sharon's salon didn't just slow down. It collapsed. The whispers in the moms group had turned into a full-blown reputation disaster. With no clients and, more importantly, no money from me to float her through the bad times, she couldn't keep it open. The for lease sign went up in the window just before Christmas. And my mother, Dolores, she couldn't cover the house on her own. Without my help with the mortgage and the bills, everything they had leaned on me for finally buckled under its own weight. I heard through the grapevine that they put the house on the market, the house I grew up in, the house filled with so many painful memories. They packed up, bitter and broke, and left town. There was no goodbye. No apology. No final, dramatic confrontation. They just vanished. One day they were there, a constant, toxic presence in my life, and the next, they were gone. Just silence. And my Daisy? She shone. Her hair grew back, soft and even. The butchered bangs were gone, the jagged edges forgotten, and with them, the shame disappeared. She laughed again, a full, uninhibited sound that filled our quiet house with warmth. She walked into school with her head held high. She stood on stage for the school play without flinching, delivering her lines with a confidence that made my heart swell. The cloud that had been hanging over her was gone. One night, a few weeks after they had left town, I was tucking her into bed. She was quiet for a moment, just looking at me with those thoughtful, serious eyes that children sometimes get. Then she squeezed my hand and whispered, "Mom, I know now. You'll always stand up for me." That moment. That was worth everything. All the drama, all the heartache, all the difficult decisions. It was all worth it for that one moment of pure, unwavering trust in her eyes. So, here we are. It's quieter now. More peaceful. Some people, the few who know the whole story, say I went too far. That cutting my family off, exposing my sister, shutting down the money, they say it was too harsh, that it was, after all, just a haircut. Others say I should have done it much, much earlier. I'm still figuring it all out. But I know this, I sleep better at night. My daughter is happy and safe. And my home is finally a place of peace. So I want to ask you, the people who have been so kind to listen to my whole story. What do you think? Did I go too far? Or was I right to finally draw the line? Let me know in the comments below. And thank you, truly, for listening. And so, this story reminds us of the profound strength it takes to break cycles of pain and stand up for what truly matters. It is a testament to the power of self-respect and the unwavering love of a mother who chose to protect her child's innocence over preserving toxic relationships. In life, we often face moments where we must choose between peace and confrontation, between enduring harm silently and drawing a firm boundary. This story teaches us that standing up for ourselves and those we love is not an act of cruelty, it is an act of courage. At its core, this is a story about self-worth. It challenges us to reflect on the relationships we allow in our lives and the legacy we leave for the next generation. It reminds us that we hold the power to rewrite our narratives, to teach our children that they deserve kindness, respect, and love, and that no one, not even family, has the right to take that away. What about you? Have you ever had to make a difficult choice to protect your peace or someone you love? Share your thoughts below, or simply comment good if this story resonated with you. Let's continue this meaningful conversation together.